Architectural Builders Supply is pleased to present you with this recording of the technical question that is listed in the title of this video.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
We're looking for tech support. Is it something we sold you?
Well, I'm working on I see online that you guys have some information regarding like an NP1 for a MEL Kawneer exit device.
Power supply, sure.
So I was wondering if I was just having kind of a weird little issue with one that I have here on site. I was seeing if maybe there's, you guys could maybe give me a hand.
Yeah, so we didn't supply it is what it sounds like. What is the issue that you're having?
So the system that was installed had two of those NP1s, and they were powering the doors. There's a biparting door system off of separate NP1 devices. So that was making like the worm gear when it was getting power. They were like pulling in intermittently at different times. So it's sequenced with a door opener, and so because of that, when they put a lock sequencer in to kind of combat all the, I guess, intermittent activation to kind of like just trying to drown out, like have once it gets the input activation, it fires, the one door, and then it fires the next door, and then once those are fully fired, then it would fire the input for the door operator to open doors. So I came out here and I'm putting the doors onto one of the MP1 devices because it says it can handle two doors. But when I do that, what I'm getting is when I activate the MP1, it's like it will suck in one of the panels. They'll pull them in at the same time, but one will fully retract in when the other one is acting like it's not getting enough power to fully retract the other one in. So I don't know if the current draw for two, even though the MP1 says it can handle two doors, if it can't handle two doors simultaneously.
What are the NP1 power supplies powering?
They're just powering the Kawneer, like MEL, motor electric crash bar.
Yeah, sure. So what I would do is I would check and find out, I would have my multimeter testing and then, operate the circuit to see what sort of voltage you're getting. And then, when you fire those, and then I would also check the ohm value of that motor that doesn't appear to be working. I don't know how many ohms are in that motor, what you should see when you put a multimeter on it, but that would be the next thing I would check.
Okay, so I know I'll do those. I appreciate it. But I do know that when I was activating it, like the door dogging in or whatever, or retracting in once it gets power to the motor, it changed. So let's say there you have the right door and the left door. When I first was doing it, the left door was pulling in and the right door wasn't. And then every so often the right door will fully pull in and the left one won't. Now if I power the devices independently off of the separate NP1s that are there, which causes this, like I said, this intermittent delay in activation, they both suck in the way they're supposed to. They both, but the problem is that one will suck in and then the next one will, pull in. So it seems to me that the motor isn't a problem, but I used my multimeter and I was pulling the power off of the NP1 and it was fluctuating between 22 and 24 volts. And I don't know that's with the wire ohmed good. I've already tested the wire between the door and the NP1, but the power, the regulated power coming out of the NP1 is fluctuating, and that's on both NP1 devices. So I didn't know if that was a kind of common for those devices to do that, since they both are doing it. I just don't imagine them both to be faulty.
Oh, you're right. Plus or minus 10% is within tolerance. The MP1 is rated at 1.5 amps, so I would want, and plus, that when door 1 is wired to door 1 and door 2 is wired to door 2, switch those wires around and see if you can get the same sort of problem wiring the doors opposite. And then if that's the case, I would look at the NP1 as being the problematic part of the circuit.
Alrighty, yep. That sounds like a plan. I'll do that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I would reverse them and try it, and I would also get my multimeter on while you fire it and see what kind of amperage you're getting coming out, and compare the output for door 1 and output for door 2. And by all means, call me back. I don't have an opening here assembled to kind of test with you at the same time, but there's not too much to this stuff.
Yeah. So, what do you? So you said that the current for the MP1 you said is 1.5. I just if I go test the current of the door, I just don't want to make sure I blow the fuse in my meter. You said it's 1.5.
Yeah, that's what the instructions say. Now I don't know what the motor requires, but if you're getting some output in terms of current or amperage that's way anemic, yeah, you could look at that, and you say that you measured the voltage coming out of both door 1 and door 2, right? Off the power supply? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I would check the current, but at that point, I don't know, that wouldn't make sense to me to have a problem like that where it's not producing enough current. Yeah. Well, you've got to get the multimeter on everything. Something's going to be wacky, but you'll be able to kind of, switching the wires will allow you to isolate whether or not the motor is the problem. If you can duplicate the trouble when you swap the wiring on door 1 and door 2, you'll know it's the power supply and not the motor itself. But if you've got the same problem and you swap the wires, then I would find out what the ohm value is for that motor and then put your multimeter on there for resistance and see what it is.
Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
All right, sir. Thank you, Brandon. Bye-bye.
All right. Have a good one.
If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video.
Let me try and find a way to actually word this. So I tested the current draw on the motors, and I own the motors. The current draw for both motors were sitting at about 650 to 670 milliamps. They both were consistent with that. They weren't spiking or anything. They stayed at that, I was using my min-max on my meter at the, 650, 680 current draw. So what I was trying to do, I don't know if you remember, but the systems were on 2 separate MP1 power supplies. So I wanted to isolate them to one power supply because when it was actuating with there's a lock sequencer, and the way it was actuating, the crash bars would kind of pull in intermittently at different times because they were on 2 different lock power supplies. And that would sometimes be that time it took for one to pull in, then the other one pull in. Sometimes it would intermittently jam because the door would try to open before they were actually, one of the doors fully retracted in to unlock the door. But when I put them on one MP1, I think you told me that the current rating for that MP1 power supply is 1.5 amps. And it seems that I was having an issue with running 2 of the crash bars on one power supply, even though they were, respectively pulling only, 650 milliamps. That's, under 1.5 amps. And for some reason, one would pull in exactly the way it needed to, and the other one would try to pull in, but just kind of not work. So I reintegrated back to 2 separate power supplies, and I just extended the lock sequencing, and it started working reliably. I don't like that. But when I called you back, I kind of got disconnected. My phone died. I was going to see if there was another power supply that has a higher current rating that you guys recommend for those Kawneer systems.
Yeah, there's not. There's not. And your NP1 has an output for door 1 and then a separate output for door 2?
Yep, sure does.
Huh. So I'm going to call someone. I know the guy who manufactures that power supply. It's not Kawneer. I know the guy that Kawneer gets them from. I'm going to call him and ask and I'm going to let you know so that you can, moving forward, have a client that is stable with what's going to happen, because you should, on paper, be able to run both of those. You tested that.
That would be awesome. Yeah, when I spoke with them, like that's what I kind of told them. I kind of just looked up what I could find online. I said, hey, this thing is rated for this. These, the current draw for these. This on, like exactly what you said. Like theoretically, this should work fine. But then when I put it in use, it just kind of it didn't seem like it was. And I don't know if there's just something wrong with maybe those MP1s are not. Maybe they're not working at full capacity, or maybe there's something defective. But I did try on both of them, and they both did the exact same thing. Now, I think one thing I forgot to mention, that they had a PS1 power supply, and it was like the MP1 retrofit. So they were, I don't know if that's kind of the standard way. So they have the output of the PS1 plugged into the NP1 into the input for power for the 24 volts. I don't know if that's just like the common way, or because I know it looked like there was a line, neutral, and ground terminal location on the MP1 itself. But I don't know if that just is straight AC voltage at that point, if you're running that MP1 with AC, or if you needed that PS1 to actually convert that, that secondary to the 24. I wasn't 100% sure. I didn't get that into it because I just kind of it was getting late. I just kind of reintegrated them to get them something reliable.
Yeah, you put Humpty Dumpty back together. As far as I know, the PS1 is should definitely not be involved at all. That would be for the solenoid, the prior version of the solenoid-driven electric latch retraction. You could expect it not to work if you had a PS1 involved with MEL devices, with motorized devices. So, yeah, it shouldn't work. I've sent devices to people, MELs, and they're like, it doesn't work. I'm like, well, send me a picture of your power supply. You said you had the right power supply. Turns out they had a PS1 and it wasn't working.
Yeah, so I know when you look at the NP1 manual, what I could find, there was there's that little harness that comes in that it looks like it, and like someone mounted this thing onto the cover of the PS1 power supply. And what I could find online, it was like they called it a MP1 retrofit, is what they called it. And then that was mounted to the cover of the PS1. So I don't know if that's really what the problem is. And like I said, I couldn't find anything on it. And I wasn't too sure. I didn't know where the breaker was, and I wasn't too sure what if I put my 120 onto the MP1 directly, of what my output would be. I don't know if that does take 120, because I really couldn't. The documentation I had was like super limited, so I wasn't sure if I put 120 into the MP1 directly, if I was going to still be outputting, the 24 volts DC, or because I didn't see, looking on it. I mean, I didn't get super involved. I didn't see like a bridge rectifier or anything on the actual MP1, so I didn't know. I'm like, maybe it doesn't convert it. Maybe if I put 24, just stepped it down to 24 AC, and I know that I think this device needs to have DC power, if I'm not mistaken.
It needs to have a DC power, and it needs to come directly from the NP1. I would have brought line voltage right to the NP1, and then I would have come off of the output from the NP1 right to the devices, and I would have taken that PS1, put it in the truck.
Okay, so that might be ultimately what the issue is. Why that PS1. I was thinking maybe the PS1, because I don't know that since I couldn't find any documentation on it.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe that was choking down the current on that MP1, so maybe that's why it wasn't getting the full activation, because it was actually pulling that power from that PS1, and it was kind of like throttling it, I guess, with lack of a better term, for the MP1.
The way it's been explained to me is the NP1 and the MEL devices talk to each other, and if they can't talk, they don't work correctly. So there you go.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try that. I'll actually put my line voltage directly to the NP1 and go from there.
Do you need installation instructions for the NP1?
If you could send me what you have, that would be awesome.
Yeah, of course. Please.
If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. Okay, so let's see what we can come up with regarding determining off the shelf what this material should be operating at. It's based on the prior phone call. It's including the PS1 is what the problem is. It sounded like they were powering the PS1 from the NP1 when in fact they should have just gotten rid of the PS1 altogether and installed the NP1. So we're going to power that NP1 and we're going to check what amperage is coming out. But I have the motor here that should be inside that device, and I want to check what amperage, pardon me, I want to check what its ohm value is. And I've also asked the manufacturer to provide that data. And I've never done this with this device, but it shouldn't be, no, never mind. And what we're testing when we test the ohm value is every motor will have an inherent ohm value, or a range, I suppose. And we're just going to see if this is a healthy motor. The issue, though, is so that's part of the problem. The MEL1 motor retraction system has been designed to work specifically with the NP1 power supply. The MEL1 and the NP1 each contain a computer that is constantly monitoring the status of the system. This communication is done using the red and black power wire that runs in between the NP1 and the MEL and the MEL. So it gives us it's giving us input voltage and output of basically 24 volts DC at 1.5 amp. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to connect this the power wire, the red and black power wire, and I'm going to see if I can get an ohm reading off of it. Alright. We're going to set it to ohms, which is here on this inexpensive but very effective multimeter. I don't know what I'm expecting to see. I'm expecting to see not more than 2,000 ohms. More than 200, but not more than 2,000 ohms. So I'll set it to there. And let's see. Not getting anything out of that. Clearly that's not how that's supposed to work. Now I'll have to follow up with the manufacturer to find out how they recommend testing for that, if it can be tested. And the answer is I simply don't know. So we will find out. So let's move on to the NP1 and take a closer look at that. Okay, so we're going to have input is here. There's nowhere else for it to be coming. Outputs are going to be here. Input will be here. Door 1 and door 2 will be here. I don't know which terminals are powered. Before I connect wires, let me just be sure. AC in, AC out, okay. Yeah, so 1 and 2, according to the installation instructions, are the power, are the outputs on 1 and 2. So really simple, 1 and 2. Door 1, door 2, door 1, door 2. AC input voltage, ground, neutral. Neutral is white. I always look that up because I don't always remember what it is. Terry, would you hand me my screwdrivers? Thank you. Alright, neutral is white, so let's get this connected. L is going to be black. Neutral is white. And the ground wire I have taped off, so I'm not concerned about that. I've got it isolated. So we're going to power this, and then we're going to test 1 and 2 and see if we're getting voltage. Okay, we got some lights. It usually means something right is happening. So we're going to set this to DC voltage. Over here, DC voltage. We don't expect to see more than 200. We expect to see more than 20, but not more than 200. Okay. I don't know what polarity this is, but it doesn't matter. Alright, so it's negative 27 something. So that means that the positive is the first terminal. So I'm getting 24.7 volts out of door 1. Now we'll do the same on door 2. Interesting. Interesting. Or what did I do wrong? Was getting voltage, no I'm not. Oh, okay. I just wasn't making good contact with the terminals. That's what it was. Yeah, that's all it is. I'm getting good contact on these terminals now. Okay.
AB supply.
So we know we're getting voltage out of an NP1. The ohms we couldn't check on the motor. We'll find out why, and we'll continue this video. Thank you.
Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up. Please subscribe and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.